Arrival at Nexus Prime. Katie Brooks pressed her face against the viewing window as their transport ship approached Nexus Prime Academy. The massive space station looked like a giant metal flower floating among the stars, with different sections spreading out like petals. Each section housed students from different worlds across the galaxy. "Look, Danny. You can see the docking bays," Katie said to her 10-year-old brother, who sat beside her clutching his small travel carrier. Danny held his carrier protectively on his lap, just like Katie did with hers. Their mother, Dr. Lisa Brooks, smiled from across the aisle. "Remember, kids, this is a huge opportunity. Not many human children get to attend the galaxy's most prestigious school." Their father, Commander Jake Brooks, nodded approvingly. "Just be yourselves and make friends. And take good care of Pepper and Biscuit." Katie looked down at her carrier where Pepper, her black and white guinea pig, sat quietly munching on a piece of lettuce. Danny's hamster, Biscuit, was running on his tiny wheel inside his carrier. The pets had been their constant companions for 2 years back on Earth. The docking process took 30 minutes. When they finally stepped off the transport, Katie felt the artificial gravity pull her feet to the deck. The air smelled different here, cleaner, but with a slight metallic taste. A tall, blue-skinned alien approached them. His head was shaped like a cone, and his eyes were large and silver. "Welcome, Brooks family. I am Principal Vorka. We are pleased to have our first human students." Katie and Danny followed their parents and the principal through long corridors. Other alien beings walked past them, and Katie tried not to stare. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of crystal that caught the light beautifully. They reached a large classroom filled with students sitting at curved desks. The room went quiet when they entered. "Students, please welcome Katie and Danny Brooks from Earth," Principal Vorka announced. A crystalline being that looked like a walking diamond raised what might have been a hand. "I am Crix, 9. What are those containers you carry?" Katie looked at Danny, then back at the class. "These are our pets from Earth." Several students made sounds that might have been laughter. A blue, squid-like creature with big eyes bubbled something that sounded amused. "Pets?" asked a student that looked like a giant praying mantis. "What are pets?" Danny stepped forward bravely. "They're animals that live with us and are our friends." More sounds of amusement filled the room. The teacher, a tall, graceful being with silver skin and long fingers, waved for quiet. "I am Miss Keeler. Please show us these Earth creatures." Katie looked at Danny, who nodded. She opened her carrier carefully. Pepper poked her head out, whiskers twitching as she looked around the room. Her small black eyes examined the strange new faces staring at her. The alien students burst into loud laughter. Crix 9's crystal body rang like bells as he shook with amusement. "That tiny thing is your companion? It looks like food." This was not the welcome Katie had hoped for, but she lifted her chin defiantly. There was something special about Earth pets that these aliens didn't understand yet. The mockery. Danny opened his carrier next. Biscuit climbed onto his palm, his golden fur clean and shiny. The hamster sat up on his back legs and cleaned his whiskers with his tiny paws. Even smaller, clicked the mantis-like student. "What does it do? Can it fight? Can it carry things? Can it even survive without protection?" asked the squid-like creature, whose voice made bubbling sounds. Katie felt her cheeks grow warm. "They don't fight. They're gentle and friendly. Pepper likes to eat vegetables and run around. Biscuit likes to climb and explore." "Pathetic," Crix 9 said, his crystal body flashing with colors. "On my world, we bond with shard birds that can sing in frequencies that shatter stone. They are useful." The squid creature, who introduced herself as Yith, seemed curious rather than mean. "My companion can glow in the dark and speaks in light patterns. What purpose do your creatures serve?" Katie looked down at Pepper, who had climbed onto her shoulder and was gently nibbling her ear. They make us happy. They trust us, and we take care of them. Trust? The mantis student called Click Snap made rapid clicking sounds. My helper bugs can lift objects 10 times their weight and solve complex problems. Your creatures seem useless for survival. Miss Keeler moved closer to examine Pepper and Biscuit. Interesting. They appear very calm despite being in a completely alien environment. Most creatures would show signs of stress. They're used to being with us, Danny explained. We've had them since they were babies. They know we'll keep them safe. A student covered in green fur laughed. Keep them safe? They look like they couldn't survive a day in the wild. How did such weak creatures evolve on your world? Katie felt defensive. Earth has lots of dangerous animals, but Pepper and Biscuit are smart. They know how to hide and when to be quiet. They're not weak. Your world has dangerous animals. Crick's Nine's crystals dimmed with interest. Yet you choose companions that cannot defend themselves or you. We protect each other, Katie said simply. Principal Vorka, who had been watching quietly, spoke up. Very interesting. On most worlds, companion animals are chosen for their abilities to assist or protect. Your species forms bonds based on different criteria. The class continued with students from different worlds showing images of their companions. Yith showed pictures of her bioluminescent sea creature that could communicate through light displays. Click Snap displayed his helper insects that could form complex structures and solve puzzles. Crick's Nine projected an image of his shard bird, a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal with wings that could create beautiful but deadly sonic attacks. When it was time for the humans to share, Katie simply held Pepper while Danny let Biscuit explore his desk. The pets seemed interested in their surroundings but stayed close to their humans. They don't do tricks or show special powers, Katie explained. They just live with us and share our daily life. How boring, muttered Click Snap. But something about the way Pepper and Biscuit moved caught Miss Keeler's attention. Their ears were constantly moving, tracking sounds, and their eyes seemed to be memorizing every detail of their new environment. Signs of danger. 2 weeks had passed since Katie and Danny arrived at Nexus Prime Academy. The teasing about their pets had continued every day, but some students were becoming more curious than mean. Yith, the young Aquarian, often asked questions about how Pepper and Biscuit behaved back home on Earth. During morning lessons, Miss Keeler taught the class about space dangers. Her silver fingers moved through holographic displays, showing different threats that existed in the galaxy. The vacuum of space is not the only danger, she explained to the mixed group of alien children. There are creatures made of pure energy that drift between stars. We call them void wraiths. Katie looked up from her notes. Pepper sat in her lap, having been allowed out of her carrier during quiet lessons. The guinea pig's ears perked up at certain words, though Katie assumed she was just responding to her voice. What do void wraiths do? Asked Crick's Nine, his crystal body flashing with interest. They feed on life energy, Miss Keeler said seriously. They are drawn to places where many living beings gather together. Fortunately, they are extremely rare. The last confirmed sighting was over 200 years ago. Click Snap made rapid clicking sounds. How do they feed? They drain the life force from living creatures, leaving only empty shells behind. The teacher's voice grew serious. But you do not need to worry. Nexus Prime has powerful shields and defense systems. We are completely safe here. Danny noticed that Biscuit, who usually stayed calm during lessons, had started running frantically on his wheel. The hamster had been doing this more often lately, especially during the night hours when Danny was trying to sleep. After class, Katie and Danny walked through the corridors toward the dining hall. Other students moved around them, chattering in their different languages. The Brooks children had learned to understand most species through their universal translators. Your Earth pets seem nervous lately, observed Yith, swimming alongside them in her mobility suit. Is this normal behavior? Katie looked down at Pepper, who was riding on her shoulder but kept turning her head to look behind them. "They've been acting strange since we got here. I thought it was just because everything is new." "Maybe they're homesick," Danny suggested, though he'd noticed Biscuit's increased activity too. That night in their family quarters, both pets were restless. Pepper kept running to the small window and standing on her hind legs, as if trying to see something outside. Biscuit ran on his wheel for hours, only stopping to eat quickly before starting again. "Mom, I think something's wrong with them," Katie said at breakfast the next morning. Dr. Brooks examined both pets carefully. "They seem healthy. Their heart rates are elevated, but that could be stress from the new environment." But as the days passed, the behavior got worse. Other students began to notice too. "Your food pets are very active," Crix, 9 observed during lunch. "Are they always so alert?" Katie watched as Pepper sat perfectly still on her lap, but her ears were rotating like tiny radar dishes, tracking every sound in the crowded dining hall. "No, they're usually much calmer." Miss Keeler had been watching the pets' behavior as well. During their next lesson about space dangers, she noticed how both animals became more agitated when she mentioned energy-based life forms. "Curious," she murmured to herself. "Very curious indeed." That evening, as Katie and Danny prepared for bed, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the space station. Emergency lights flashed red, and Principal Vorka's voice echoed through the corridors. "All students report to designated safety areas immediately." This is not a drill. But Pepper and Biscuit weren't surprised by the alarms at all. In fact, they seemed to calm down for the first time in weeks, as if they'd been waiting for this moment all along. "The Void Wraiths attack. Void Wraiths have breached our outer defenses," Principal Vorka's voice continued over the emergency speakers. "All students must remain in safe areas until further notice." Students from all sections of the academy rushed through the corridors toward the central safe zones. Katie and Danny ran with their classmates, but something strange was happening. While the alien students looked confused and frightened, Pepper and Biscuit were now completely calm and focused. "Katie!" Yith called out, swimming faster in her mobility suit. "Your pets, they're not scared." It was true. Pepper sat alertly on Katie's shoulder, her small black eyes scanning the corridors ahead. Biscuit rode in Danny's pocket, his head poking out, ears forward and twitching with purpose. They reached the main safe area, a large, reinforced chamber deep in the academy's core. Hundreds of students from dozens of different species huddled together while teachers tried to maintain order. "The shields are holding," Miss Keeler announced, reading from a holographic display. "But there are multiple void wraiths surrounding the station. More than have been seen together in centuries." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A cold, electric feeling filled the air, and several students began to look pale and weak. "They're trying to drain us even through the shields," gasped Click Snap, his mantis-like body trembling. That's when Pepper did something she had never done before. She let out a sharp, piercing whistle, a sound no guinea pig should have been able to make. Biscuit responded with a series of rapid, high-pitched chirps. "What are they doing?" Crix, 9 asked, his crystal body dimming with exhaustion. But Miss Keeler's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "They're not just making noise. Those frequencies, they're interfering with the Void Wraith's energy signature." The teacher was right. As Pepper and Biscuit continued their strange calls, the cold feeling in the air began to fade. Students started to look healthier, and the lights stopped flickering. "Impossible," breathed Principal Vorka, who had just arrived in the safe area. "How can such small creatures affect energy-based life forms?" Katie and Danny looked at each other in amazement. Their useless pets were somehow fighting off the Void Wraiths. "Earth is a death world," Katie said suddenly, remembering something her father had told her. "Our animals evolved to survive against impossible odds." "But they're so gentle and weak," protested the green-furred student. No, Danny realized, watching Biscuit coordinate his calls with Pepper's. "They're not weak. They're smart. They've been sensing the void wraiths for weeks, preparing for this. Miss Keeler was frantically running scans with her portable equipment. The energy signatures are incredible. These creatures are generating specific sound frequencies that disrupt the void wraith's ability to feed. But how did they know? Earth animals have senses we don't, Katie explained, finally understanding. Pepper can hear sounds we can't. Biscuit can sense vibrations through his whiskers. They knew the void wraiths were coming long before our scanners detected them. The defense continued for over an hour. Pepper and Biscuit took turns making their protective calls, never seeming to tire. Other students watched in awe as the tiny Earth creatures held off creatures that could destroy entire star systems. Finally, Principal Vorka's voice came over the speakers again. The void wraiths are retreating. All students may return to their normal activities. As the all-clear sounded, the alien students looked at Pepper and Biscuit with completely new eyes. These weren't useless pets, they were guardians who had just saved everyone's lives. Understanding and respect. The next morning, everything at Nexus Prime Academy was different. Word had spread quickly about how the human children's pathetic pets had saved the entire station from the void wraiths. Katie and Danny walked into their classroom to find their fellow students waiting for them with expressions of respect and curiosity rather than mockery. Katie, Danny, Crix, 9 approached them, his crystal body glowing softly. I owe you and your companions an apology. We did not understand. Click Snap made gentle clicking sounds instead of his usual rapid chatter. Your Earth creatures, they protected us when our own companions could not. How? Miss Keeler had spent the night researching Earth biology. Class, gather around. I want to explain what we learned yesterday. The students formed a circle as the teacher activated her holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, showing its dangerous wildlife, extreme weather, and hostile environments. Earth is what we call a Deathworld, Miss Keeler explained. It's a planet where survival requires extraordinary adaptation. Every creature that lives there has evolved incredible abilities just to stay alive. Yith swam closer to Pepper, who was calmly eating a piece of apple on Katie's desk. But she seemed so peaceful and gentle. That's the remarkable part, the teacher continued. Earth creatures developed intelligence and sensitivity alongside their survival skills. Katie and Danny's pets aren't warriors, they're early warning systems. They can detect dangers that our most advanced sensors miss. But why do they bond with humans if they're so capable? Asked the green-furred student. Danny smiled, gently scratching Biscuit behind his tiny ears. Because that's how Earth creatures survive best, by working together. Humans protect them from big dangers, and they warn us about hidden ones. Principal Vorka entered the classroom, followed by several academy officials. Brooks' children, your pets have proven invaluable to our station's security. We would like to study their abilities, with your permission, to improve our early warning systems. Only if they want to help, Katie said firmly. And only if they're treated with respect. Of course, the principal agreed. They are honored guests here now. Over the following weeks, Pepper and Biscuit became celebrities throughout the academy. Students from other worlds came to observe how they interacted with their humans, trying to understand the unique Earth bond between species. Crix, 9 learned to speak more gently around the small creatures, discovering that Pepper enjoyed the musical tones his crystal body could produce. Click Snap's helper insects seemed to communicate with Biscuit in ways that fascinated the xenobiology teachers. Yith became especially close with the Brooks family, often asking Katie to explain how trust worked between humans and animals. On my world, we form partnerships based on mutual benefit, she explained. But your bond seems deeper. It is, Katie agreed, watching Pepper explore a new climbing structure the academy had built for her. We don't just use each other, we care about each other. That's what makes us strong. The Void Wraith attack was studied by scientists across the galaxy. The Academy's new bioacoustic warning system, designed based on Pepper and Biscuit's natural abilities, became the standard for space stations throughout civilized space. But for Katie and Danny, the most important change was simpler. Their classmates no longer saw their pets as useless earth mice. They saw them as the heroes they'd always been, small creatures with big hearts who had taught an entire galaxy about the power of love, loyalty, and the unique wisdom that comes from surviving on a Deathworld. Miss Keeler summed it up best during their graduation ceremony months later: "We thought strength meant size and power. But Katie and Danny's companions taught us that true strength comes from sensitivity, intelligence, and the bonds we form with those we care about." As the Brooks family prepared to return to Earth for vacation, carrying with them friendship bonds that would last lifetimes, Katie looked down at Pepper, who was contentedly munching lettuce in her travel carrier. "Ready to go home, girl?" she whispered. Pepper looked up with her bright black eyes and made a soft, contented sound that somehow seemed to say, "Home is wherever you are." And in that moment, Katie understood that the most important lesson they'd learned at Nexus Prime Academy wasn't about space navigation or alien cultures, it was about recognizing the quiet heroes who were with them all along. The end.